Reframing Mindset podcast, where I clear my head of the thoughts that are preventing clarity, practice my speech, among other things. Episodes range from informative knowledge to funny stories about my experiences, and in the future, maybe include interviews. So subscribe and enjoy. Episodes drop every other day.
Okay, welcome back to Reframe Mindset Podcast. My name is Pastor Brooks, and let's talk about the power of the HR, bro. And what I mean by that is that starting a business and working. What I realized is that the power of the human resource manager or whatever, and but and what I mean is that boom, I'm working in this company. So boom, when I just started the work in the world, I going in and there was a work with a startup. So I worked with a startup, and then what happened was that I came in arrogant. I just left university and be like, oh my god, I can do this, and the arrogance came in, and then what happened was that I was doing this work, and the first day, okay, I can actually do it, and then when I was doing the work, I was kind of it's like I'm doing the work for the working world. So it's one thing to do. The first job that I did was like a web development. So it's one thing to do is say, okay, you're doing it for university or all these stuff, but you're doing it for working world, working people, and it's supposed to work. And that's the thing. So it's like it's my first real job, and it was something. It was actually something to be like, oh my god, I'm actually doing programming for real. We actually have to do stuff to make it work, and that was something. So what happened was that I was doing the work, and what happened was that what I always when I was doing the work, what I realized is, I guess that's the reason. So boom, I recorded the 28th year episode, and so I guess one of the things I mentioned in that episode is that I need to remember where I was coming from. In this episode, what I realized is that one of the things that made me change jobs so much was that I guess I have a particular certain lifestyle that I wanted to maintain, and each level I unlock certain aspects of it, but there's a limit to what it could do. So like what happened was that boom, I was working this startup and doing the computer science work, but this in a startup life, it's very they're out here doing this thing, trying to not go out of business. That's basically the thing. They're trying to not go out of business. So it's like they want you to be specialized and all these things. So my luck, my taking my time, my way I approach to it, it was guess not appropriate to it because I did a lot of I did a lot of asking of questions and stuff like that. Trying to query. And boom, what happened was the change was that when that's the first time I actually interacted with the HR, they come in and give me some unrealistic thing that I think at the time. But what happened was that maybe it was not unrealistic. What happened was that I did not specialize in computer science. So it's like maybe it was just that those reality it was not made for my thing. I was not specializing in computer science, so maybe those specialization made by the HR at that time it was reasonable, but I given to who I was at that time, and I was pretty arrogant or stuff like that. It it sent a bad message, and it showed, and boom, eventually I got fired. It would be like, okay, yeah, they don't want me anymore. the next interaction, with HR was at the customer service work. And what happened was that no, I go into this work and I'll go into this work, and what happened was that I actually wanted to keep the work. So no, I'm going to this work with all the bad connotation and um growing up, being like, yo, you're doing science, so this is your future and all these stuff. This is the future you're going to go. You're going to go in the call center work and all these stuff. And then boom, what happens that I'm going to this work and it seems like a defeat. Boom, you graduated university and all these stuff, but boom, all the people were right. You out here have to actually go back and do the call center work and all these stuff. And so I actually did it. And what happened was that it was enlightening to actually see, because what happened was that I actually going to the call center work, or the customer service work, I actually see how our business is run, our somewhat competent business. I'm grateful for that experience. I see how our competent business is run. But not only that, I see the power of the HR, bro. I see like a small part of the HR, of what the HR could do, the doors that it could open. No, this work now, what happened was that I see another level of the HR thing where I got this work, and this was basically like, so for the last work I was basically doing a walk-in interview. They come in, I just walk in and basically I got the work. This one was like boom, I put in my thing, and then what happened was that I was walking with a good amount of people. And what happened was that I'm doing this work now, and this work basically does actually use a lot, like, you lose a lot of your power. So it's like what happens that in the working world, in the employee world, the power of the HR, that's what happens. You don't have any, the most of the power at this point in time. It's just basically with the HR. They can move you, do that, and all those. But what happens that you're basically going, and your foot in the door is your competency to actually do the job, but your ability to keep the work relies in the power of the HR. So you can out here go out and be like, okay, all these stuff running around, all these things, but it's the HR that basically um carries the power. But the thing is that you can go out here and be like, okay, I want to close you with the HR, and that's why I have all these, so all these things I'm out here. Those are real life stuff. But the thing is that you see, what doing this work, what I realized was that I'm going in, going this work that I'm doing now. I'm going into the work way out of my prime, way out of my prime, and the training regimen didn't change. It's just that I'm way older. So what happens? I'm going to the work way out of my prime, and what happens? You do the work, and you have more experience, you know the knowledge and all these stuff. But what happens is that you're going in with people who are, you're doing this work now and say, okay, you're trying to keep the job and all these stuff. But they're going in with people that are way more experienced and knowledgeable at that stage more than you. So what I say is that the power of the HR, what I realize is that boom, I'm basically still here at the work, and I wonder why. How I'm basically still here at the work. And what I think is that it's the power of the HR to say, yo, that um recruiting aspect of the HR to say, okay, yeah, they look at my thing and know my competency to say, okay, they to cut me some slack and all these stuff. And that's the thing where I be like, yo, oh, going into 28 year, I understand the power of the human resource part where they act, where the resume, I build a resume and all these stuff. They can look through that and sieve and find my competency. So now I'm in the the company for a year and all this stuff. Still there, still there, and they are able to. Are I do not know on the back end. I do not know on the back end, and I'm just out here going to the work and trying to execute. But doing the work, I realize that how the the you I went into the work with a lot of people, and what happened was that I was complaining about how I lose all my power. I have no, you're going to the bar people and just lose all of your power in this work, because what happens is that they do mass recruiting with this work. So in the customer service part, you're going with people out there doing teamwork and all this stuff. Yes, teamwork is there at this work, but it's a different type. Different type. You're going with a mass recruit, and what happens that some of the OG group, what happens that you're going in this work, you're going with people with different stages of life. You're going with people with a father, all these stuff at this stage, a different type of working style and all these stuff. And you're there. You're there, and different point of living, different lifestyle, and you want to keep your lifestyle. Or not only that, you don't even know at this point you're way out of your prime. So it's like you don't even know your lifestyle. You don't even know anything at this point. And you're going with a lot of people with different phases of life, and you're out here wondering. And that's it. That's the thing where you're going to this work and all the power is in the HR's hands. Most of the power is in your HR's hand, but you have to actually do the work because you basically have no power at all. You basically have no money. You need to be an employee to actually make some money and all this stuff. But at the same time, what happened was that you're out there complaining about how you don't have any power. So I'm going to do the work and all these stuff, work my 9 to 5 and use some money to start a business and all them stuff there. What I realized doing this work was that the power, the blessings of the HR was that the HR are, at least I think, they are able to cover most of my weaknesses in this work. Where when the new people coming in and all these stuff at all these time, I may look floppy for doing the work, but for some reason I still get they still say, okay, yo, come to do the work and all these stuff. And one of the reason what I think is because the power of the HR, where they are the HR for a reason. They are the HR for a reason. They know the competence and all these stuff. So boom, new people are coming in more competent and all these stuff. And what happens that you're going out way out of your prime. You're coming out way out of your prime. And it's like, yo, but you're there for a reason. You're there for a reason. And it's like you're still going there. And it's like the so it's like, yo, so what happens is that the arrogance that you had at the start of the work, and seeing the OG person them that you see at the work, and what happens is that you realize that you basically, as things are there for a reason. And as you get older, what happens is that, or no, as you gain more experience, you understand the value of the HR, the HR. Are not only that you respect the HR part of it. You respect the HR part of it. So you respect the process. That's basically it. So boom, you're out here and you're out here getting the shifts and all these stuff. You respect the process and you try to do your best to actually do the right thing and those stuff. But what happened was that when I was younger, getting the first work, what I realized was that those work that I got when the HR was presenting the thing. Maybe at that time, I still think it would maybe unreasonable. But the thing is that I was not a computer scientist major, you know. So maybe their rationale was valid, but what I went into that work was with talent and not the skill. I went into work with the talent, not the skill. So when they presented those things, I was basically out here trying to use talent and be like, okay, those are unreasonable stuff and all these stuff and all these things. So when they presented those stuff, you'd be like, oh my god, bro, those are some terrible things. Those are some unreasonable stuff. But older, no, looking back, maybe those were reasonable. Or at the same time, maybe a computer science major would have said the same thing I did. But what happened was that they would be more competent to do it. So what would happen is that that's the next part of it where a HR could make a request that is unreasonable to you, but because you're so skilled and all these stuff, you're out here doing it and out here overworking yourself and all those stuff. So that's it. The power of the HR and the working world, that is something. That is a difficult thing to manage where it be like you're out here doing the work and you can't eat most of the power at this phase in your life is in the power of the HR. The HR has all your power, has most of the power, and you can't tell if you're on the right and the wrong because what happens is that you basically have little footing. So it's like you can't tell. So it's like it was one of those things where like the power of the power of the HR is they have the ability to cover your weakness in a work where you come in and you may look very fluffy. You're coming out you're out here, you may look very fluffy doing a work. And but they are able to cover you and all these stuff. So it's like but at the same time they may be providing a non-experienced HR person could actually be out here providing you with some very unreasonable things, very unreasonable demands. Just like you employee could out here be asking for some unreasonable demands, but you can't tell. You can't tell because you don't know, you don't have a reference to compare it to. You don't have a reference to compare it to and all this stuff. So it's like and then the working world people complaining about HR. You know, at this phase in life, I guess being in a position that I know we actually need to keep our work. I'm out here to be like, okay, yeah, I understand the power of the HR. But at the same time, I could go out here reflecting and go back and be like, oh my god, they killed me in this work. They killed me and all this. But it's hard to tell. It's completely hard to tell. It's hard to tell, bro. But it's as I said, the HR is something you you have to actually put in the work on. That is a profession, bro. It and the thing about it is that with the HR, you want to start your business, bro. It's good to actually have the experience as an employee to see the power of the HR so that when you actually know and become somewhat a business owner and this stuff and you get the HR and all this stuff and you explain this stuff. When you have the experience now as an employee, you know exactly what you're getting into. You know the experience as an employee. So when they actually say certain things or explain, be like, oh, this is what I experienced being an employee. Oh, so that's the reason why they did it. Then. Okay, and then it will make sense and all those stuff and all these things. So that I said the power of the HR is something is, and the thing about it is that I'm telling you these stuff, and I guess could be a tip of the iceberg as well. As they can do way more stuff. So it's like that's basically it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Look forward for the next episode.
Well, This is the end of the episode. Thanks for watching and look forward for the next episode. To support this podcast, go to anchor.fm/cssb/support or become a sponsor for this episode. If you have a product that you want to have more exposure, DM me on the Instagram page Reframing Mindset Podcast or on Twitter at ReframingP. Either way would help. Thank you regardless for listening, and here's a preview for the next episode.